Hey guys, it's Kevin, and this is my review for The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 13, Forget. And this episode I was definitely looking forward to because, last week's was really good and just one of the best episodes we've had of The Walking Dead in a very long time and felt so different from the rest of the show that was very interesting seeing where this episode was going to take us, basically, because it seemed like we were going into a very calm direction. And this episode, while it was definitely not as good as last week's, definitely not as good, it still was interesting, and it definitely was very slow, but I think the reason it was so slow is because their lives are slow. They're so used to such a fast-paced life, and now their life is slowing down, and I think the reason this episode was called Forget was because they're kind of forgetting their old life, and we're starting to see they don't really fit in with this group, and let's just get into this episode because I really liked it, and we're really in for some really intense stuff, definitely. Especially the ending episode. Oh, we're in for some really intense stuff. So, Sasha stares at a picture of a happy family riding in a car and other happy people framed around the room, and she sits up from her bed on the floor. The sun is rising, and Sasha walks into a house with Olivia talking about her old job, and Sasha goes straight to the guns, and Olivia asks for a leg from a boar if Sasha could kill one, and Sasha's caught off guard at first, but she agrees, and she exits the gates, and I think that scene was just trying to show that Sasha, she's surrounded by all these happy people, and she's not happy. I mean, she lost Tyrese, she is not really being treated right, she's been, so many times, she's been neglected and things like that, and she's tired of it, and I think for Sasha, she's not happy, and she's surrounded by all these happy people, and it's really annoying her. I mean, when you're surrounded by all these happy people, and they're so happy, and you're not, obviously, you'd be upset. I can understand why Sasha would be upset about that, because there are all these people that are happy, she's not happy, so I really felt bad for her in that scene. So she sets up the picture frames on a tree stump, walks away, she controls her breath, aims down the sights of her gun, shoots down a picture frame, then looks around, raises her gun again, shoots another frame down, then looks around again, she hears something but raises her gun, fires again, and she looks around more frantically as the sounds of birds ensue. She takes down all the pictures hurriedly to the sound of walkers, sits on the tree stump, and she whispers, "Come and get me." So I don't know who she was talking to exactly, but that was kind of interesting. I kind of feel like Sasha at this point just doesn't really know what to do with herself just because she's in such a weird position. I mean, one minute she is grieving over Tyrese and just killing all these walkers, and she's really starting to become a killer, but now she has to acclimate to this new calm life, and she doesn't really seem to be liking it. So we see two walkers lay on the ground, shot in the head, and Rick, Carol, and Daryl search for another. Carol is dressed quite nicely. Rick is in his constable uniform, and Daryl is still in his... He hasn't changed clothes, it seems. It seems like Daryl hasn't really changed life at all, and they are discussing their need for guns, and Rick says the community's lucky to have them now. They continue to talk about the missing gun and who could have taken it, and Carol shoots down a walker with 9 shots to show that they were out shooting when they got back, and Daryl notices a W carved in the walker's head, and they analyze it quickly, then leave. Now, I didn't know too much about a W, about what the W, excuse me, what the W indicates, but I did look up some possibilities here, and there are two things that this could mean. One, it could mean the wolf walkers, which, if you don't know what a wolf walker is, they're like the really intense ones that just kill people. Or it could mean, I don't remember what the other was called, but I think it was a wolf walker, and I'll get more into that. But Michonne is trying a police uniform. She's also now in this position of being a police officer, and she uses her sword to cut excess strings, and Rick enters and discusses I can't say that word. The distribution of authority so quickly upon their arrival. And Michonne still has a positive outlook and faith in Deanna and how smart she is. And I like that Michonne's trying to stay positive because you know what? They should be positive. They're in a safe environment. They definitely should be positive right now. So Rick wonders if she is smart for them or smart for now, because he's not sure if she really is the most reliable person, and I can understand his point of view. I mean, think of how much of an idiot Dawn was. Dawn thought that there was, all these people need saving and things like that, and they really didn't. She really did not know exactly what she was talking about, so I like that Rick wasn't really sure what she was talking about, because I definitely really enjoyed it. I thought that was very well done. Very well done. So, I definitely really enjoyed that scene. That was really good, and basically, Daryl walks through the woods alone, and we get a lot more with Daryl in this episode. He raises his crossbow, yells, "Come out," and Aaron exits the bushes with his hands up, and Aaron asks if Daryl can tell the difference between walkers and humans by sound, and I like that he asked him that, but Daryl's not answering. And Aaron goes on to ask if he can tell the difference between a good guy and a bad guy, and Daryl asks why Aaron is following him, and Aaron just asks to join him. Now, I kind of thought something, I don't know if you guys are agreeing with me, but why do I feel like Daryl is heading in a very dark direction? All the other characters, I kind of see them happy, but Daryl, I kind of feel like he's going to be in a dark direction, especially by something that Norman Reedus said. He was recently interviewed on, I believe it was Access Hollywood Entertainment Tonight, one of those things, and he said that there's a character that's been with the group that you cannot trust, and I kind of feel like Daryl is that character, because he just seems very dark, and I can understand he's lost all these people, but it definitely seems like he's heading just a very dark direction. I don't know how to explain exactly, I just feel like he's heading a very dark direction. I don't exactly know what's going to happen with this character. So I like that, though, because it's intriguing, and it keeps me invested in the show. But I will say this, now knowing that, I will definitely be watching Daryl's character a lot more carefully. So Deanna guides Michonne and Rick on how to be constables, and she says they'll listen because they believe in the community. She tells them they got the jackets from a police officer who used to work there, and Maggie will work with Deanna, and Deanna sees commerce industry and civilization here at the community. And Maggie believes in it, while Rick is kind of skeptical about it. I think it's just because he's not really sure if they can maintain organized society, and if there really is such a thing as a safe haven. And, it seems believable at this point. I myself was like, you know what, this could be believable, but there is no such thing as a safe haven. I mean, we've seen that there are walkers out there, so this is only temporary. He says he wants to talk security, and the group walks along the walls by the solar panel, and Rick wants a constant outlook at the walls, not just for damage, but because people outside are dangerous, and Sasha approaches and volunteers to be a lookout in the clock tower, and Deanna says there is no lookout in the tower, and Rick says they need one immediately, and Michonne agrees. Sasha says she'll take those shifts, as many as possible, and Deanna says she will put Spencer up there and consider Sasha for the primary lookout, but she wants the group to come to the welcome party. So a lot of the episode focuses on this party, and I really did like seeing it. And we also get some stuff with Carol in this episode. Carol's kind of starting to go back to her old life of just being a typical housewife, which I think Carol actually likes. And she talks to the ladies of the community about receipts, and Rick walks home and Carol leaves her friends to talk to him. And, I mean, if you think about it, Carol was just a housewife. That's all she was. She was a housewife who had a husband and a child before the apocalypse, and she's already starting to go back to her old life. And it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because she's been such a badass, and now she might weaken, but in the same way, I feel like she is going to be strong. Definitely, I still feel Carol's a very strong woman. I don't feel like she'd just suddenly not be strong. That does not seem like Carol's character at all. So I definitely feel like Carol is gonna be an overall strong woman. It's just the fact that I don't know if Carol's gonna stay this way. But basically, she talks to Rick, and Rick wants to use it to slip out, and they can't use Daryl because they'll be watching him. And Carol says, "What's great about this place is that she can be invisible again." And I love that she said that, because that's just showing right there that she wants to go back to her old life. She doesn't want to, somebody commented this to me, that Carol is definitely faking her happiness, because she's so upset about what's happened to her. I mean, think about all the shit she's been through. She had to kill Lizzie, she had to help all those people at Terminus, Tyrese died. I mean, it really just shows how different people deal with grief, and that's one of the things this season is showing, is how different people deal with grief, and Carol's dealing it by just not showing it, and she's very broken by what's happened, and it's definitely taking her back to her old days at being a housewife, and it's really sad, but that's how she's dealing with death. So Daryl and Aaron walk through the woods. They find a horse, and Aaron has been trying to catch him for months, and his name is Buttons, and Aaron says he hasn't seen him for a while. He starts to prepare a lasso to catch it, and Daryl takes the rope and approaches the horse cautiously, talks to the horse gently as he gets closer. Walkers come out of the woods, scare the horse off. Daryl and Aaron put them all down and pursue the horse, and Carol and Olivia enter a kitchen, and this right here, I'm like, Carol's going back to being a housewife. She really is, and she jokes about her recipe, saying a girl has so many secrets, and Tobin wants to make a withdrawal to check a few things out before the party, and Olivia shows Carol that they have apportioned chocolate, and Carol takes her quarter bar, and Tobin asks Carol if she's afraid of guns, and she tells him that she's not an expert, and Tobin offers to teach her. So Aaron and Daryl continue through the woods. Aaron tells Daryl he knows he's feeling like an outsider, which he can relate to, and he and Eric have felt, and I like that Aaron says this to him, because he and Eric have felt outside even though they have been exposed to well-meaning but mean, stupid people. He acknowledges that they are scared of the two of them for different reasons, but less of Aaron because they know him, and he tries to encourage Daryl to let people get to know him, and Daryl says he has nothing to prove. There's a lot of bad people out there, and they weren't afraid of anything. So Daryl is just in a really bad place right now. You can tell he is. But again, I just feel like he's heading in a dark direction. I really do. I mean, even what ends up happening to Daryl, I just feel like he's in a dark direction. Am I the only person that feels that? I kind of feel like he's in that. Now, there is one thing I did want to see in this episode that we didn't. We see Carl in this episode. We didn't see any of that plot with that girl. We didn't see any of that. I don't know what we still don't know what she's hiding, and I want to know what she's hiding, because she just seems too mysterious to me. So Rick, Carl, Judith, and Carol go to Deanna's party. The community is there mingling. Deanna envies Judith because she'll get to see what the community will become, and they're excited about that because they pretty much think this apocalypse is not going to last so much longer. And Abraham and Rosita enter the party. They're uncomfortable, and Abraham's persuaded by beer, and Rick is introduced to Deanna, and I thought that was kind of funny that Abraham just stays because of beer. I mean, that's typical Abraham. So Rick is introduced to Deanna's husband, Reg, and Reg tells Rick how remarkable he is, and Rick deflects by complimenting Reg's wall, and Reg says it's just a wall, while Rick has protected 14 people, and Rick chooses not to, and I mean, the wall is, Rick is saying that because he's so used to protecting people through walls. I mean, think of what a wall can do. It can protect someone from walkers and things like that, so I like they had a conversation about that. So Rick chooses not to drink, although offered, then changes his mind and has some rum, and Jessie and her family enter. Now, I didn't realize this, but Jessie's actually played by Alexandria Breckenridge. Yeah, I had no idea, and she's completely unrecognizable, and she's doing a very good job on the show. But Jessie and Rick definitely get close in this episode, and I like seeing that. As I said, I would want to see Rick and Jessie. I would like to see Jessie be a love interest for Rick. So Daryl and Aaron pursue the fleeing horse. Aaron's tripped up by a walker, so he cuts its hand off, and Daryl stomps in its head and smashes another walker on it. Aaron gets up, shoots down an approaching walker. The house is swarmed by walkers who start feeding on it, and Aaron and Daryl close in to put them down, and the walkers are dead, but the horse is suffering, and Aaron puts it down. He says that the horse always ran, and Daryl tells Aaron he was trying to help, and the two leave the dead walkers and horse, and Noah is alone at the party, and Noah's kind of the outsider of the group right now. He really is. I mean, Noah and Sasha and Daryl are like the three outsiders of the group. And Glenn and Maggie say hi. Noah says it's not really his thing. He wants to head out. And Glenn says they're all there together. Because, I mean, think about it. Noah really wasn't close with anyone except Tyrese and Beth. And they both died. So he has no one now. So Maggie tells him that he is there with family. And Daryl looks at the party from outside the house and walks past, and Aaron comes outside when Daryl is in front of his house, and Aaron appreciates Daryl's consideration for going to the house and invites him inside for a spaghetti dinner. Now, what I thought this was going to show is that he was going to get close, and that Daryl was maybe going to change his mind. However, I'll get to what happens with Daryl, because I want to talk about it. So Olivia arrives at the party, and Carol tries to avoid her, and Jessie introduces Rick to her husband, Pete, and he offers Rick to come by his office and give him a checkup, and Jessie offers to get Rick a refill, but Pete assertively tells her he's on it, and of course, that Pete just seems like a very mysterious character, and now it doesn't seem like he's overly friendly. Now it seems like he's controlling, and I don't trust Pete. I'm going to say that right now. Out of all the people, Deanna I trust, Jessie I trust, I do not trust Pete. I'm saying that right now. Pete is the one guy that I do not trust here. I do not think Pete is, I just don't, he seems abusive too, definitely. Jessie and Rick make small talk and observe the people being ordinary like before, and Jessie talks about the positive effect that the end of the world has had on people by bringing them all together despite all of their losses, and I like to see that because think of what the group's going through right now. Tons of them are going through losses, and I like that Jess said, look, you're not alone, because they do feel like they're alone here, and I like that she told them that they're not alone, and that there are people like them that are suffering through losses. And what's going to happen is if they stay there, there's going to be more people that bring in it, and then they'll be able to relate to them. And I like that she said that because, I mean, they really do feel like outsiders in this group, but they're not. They've gone through losses before. They were just like them, and I like that Jessie said that. Because essentially this is one group, and everyone else is going through the same thing. They're just used to it. They're not used to it yet because they're so used to the dangerous life and not being safe. So it's kind of throwing them off a little bit. So Carl hangs out with the young boys and wins bets, and Rick's happy to see just his son again being a teenager. He's just getting to be a typical teenager, something that Rick's happy about and something that I'm happy for Carl about, because I want him to be a happy teenager. So Jesse's youngest son, Sam, runs up and says there are no cookies. Rick assures the boy that he'll make sure more cookies come, but Sam says that Ricky, who's Ricky? Sam says that Rick doesn't have a stamp, and Rick happily accepts a stamp on his hand. And Sasha then knocks on the party's door, and Spencer opens the door and introduces himself as Deanna's son. And Spencer suggests Sasha stay with him, but she walks away. Now, this guy, Spencer, he's actually really, really nice towards Sasha. He's really trying to make her feel at home, but she just doesn't really want anything to do with him and doesn't really want anything to do with anyone. And again, it's just because she feels like an outsider and she's dealing with grief. And a better title for this episode, I think, would have been called Outsiders. I think it would have been a perfect title for this episode, but it wasn't. So Daryl is sucking down pasta at the table with Aaron and Eric and talks with his mouth full, and Eric suggests Daryl bring back a pasta maker for Mrs. Niedermeyer, and they then realize he's talking too much, which is acknowledged by Aaron. And Eric suggests that they ask him, and Daryl walks into their garage, and Aaron explains that he has thought about using the parts that are scattered to build a bike, and Aaron tells Daryl he'll need a bike, and he goes on to say that he wants Daryl to be a recruiter to keep Eric out of danger, and he persuades him by saying that he's good out there, but he doesn't belong there. And Daryl starts to uncover the bike, and Aaron says the main reason that he wants to recruit him is because he can tell the difference between a good person and a bad person. And Daryl agrees by saying, I got nothing else to do, and he says thanks. Now, I feel this is going to help Daryl. I just feel like he's in a very dark direction. He's in a very bad place, and I just feel like this is going to be something where no one can really get him out of it. He's in a stew right now, and I don't think that he's really going to be able to get out of this very easily. It just doesn't seem that way to me. It doesn't seem likely that he's going to get out of this. So Michonne looks like the plastic sword in her drink, and Abraham comes behind her, and basically, Abraham comes up behind her and jokes about the steel on of her sword, and he goes on about wanting not to use it again, but not forgetting how to use it. And Michonne asks how much he has had to drink, and Abraham laughs, acknowledges he has drank a lot. He's completely drunk right now. He tells Michonne he realizes things have worked out pretty well for him, and he asks her what she has done. Michonne tells him she put on the dress, and Abraham says try again. And Carl looks around the kitchen where the food and weapons are. He takes another piece of chocolate, then a bag, and starts filling it with guns. And Sam walks in and asks what he's doing, and he says he followed, not Carl, Carol. He followed her in hopes of finding more cookies, and Carol says she'll make a whole batch if he keeps. This was actually kind of a creepy scene. I mean, Carol was being creepy here. She says she'll make a whole batch if he keeps a secret. She tells him that he can't even tell his mom, because if he does, he'll wake up tied to a tree far, far away. So far, if he screams, no one will help, but the monsters will come. She tells him that they'll tear him apart while he's still alive, and he'll feel the whole thing, and afterward, no one will know what happened. Or he can not just say anything about what happened there, and there will be cookies, lots of cookies. Now, he's terrified of this, obviously. I mean, that's a threat right there. Like, that is a threat. That's no way to talk to a kid. And I think Carol's just so broken that she has to take out her anger on someone. So, of course, it has to be a kid. That's who she's going to take out her anger on. I mean, they've kind of fucked up her life, so I can understand that. But at the same time, I mean, she's been so great with kids that I feel like that's why she's not really good with Sam, because of what happened with Lizzie and Mika. She doesn't want to get close with kids, so that's why she's doing that. So Jessie approaches Rick holding Judith. Rick tells her that Judith and Carl are why he's still there. He understands now that being in the community isn't that bad, and Judith starts moaning, and Jessie hands her over to Rick. The two have an intimate face-to-face moment, and Rick gives her a kiss on the cheek. She's a bit giddy as she walks away. And I really like that scene. I mean, she honestly feels like she could be a good mother for Judith and Carl. Definitely, I could see her being a good mother. And I want to see if she ends up being their mother, because I could see Rick marrying her, definitely. I see these two having a very good future together. I don't think Pete's a good guy for her. I think Pete is going to end up being a terrible person, and I think Jessie and Rick are going to end up together, and if they do, I'm all for it, because I love the idea of those two together. They already seem like a couple. They do. So Deanna tries to get Sasha to mingle with the girls. The women talk about coffee and issues that weren't important to her previously, and one woman asks Sasha what her favorite meal is, but Sasha doesn't know. And while they're talking to her, you see all these images in her head. I mean, you see someone eating, she's picturing a walker eating Bob's leg. You see Bob on the floor, his leg is gone. Of course, she lost Bob. And then you see, she's picturing Tyrese, just everything she's lost. And it's too much for her. She screams at the lady. She says the woman she should be worried that she'll cook something Sasha hates, and and she completely flips out at her, and she stands by the gate staring outside, and Deanna can't figure out what it is, and Sasha says the community isn't real, but Deanna says that's bullshit, and she opens the gate for Sasha, who exits and then closes it, and I understand what Sasha's saying, but again, this community, it is a real thing. I think Sasha just feels unwanted here and out of place. She's just not used to it yet, and Carol opens up her bag and offers guns to Daryl and Rick. Daryl suggests that they don't need the weapons, and Rick hesitates but takes one, and Daryl doesn't. And I thought that was interesting that he did not take one. So that was interesting. I think Daryl just doesn't want to have the weapons because, again, he knows the difference between a good person and a bad person and can handle it in a different way. I don't know. But Daryl not being a badass, that's kind of interesting. He's not going to be as much of a badass as he usually is. So Michonne hammers nails into the wall to hold up her sword. She slowly places it above her fireplace beneath a piece of art. And Rick, Daryl, and Carol re-enter through the gate and all go separate ways. Jessie says hi to Rick as she walks with Pete, who puts his arm around her. And Rick clutches his gun, walks away. He hustles between his house and the house next door, still clutching the gun. Here's a walker on the other side, puts his hand on the wall, and stares. So he knows that there are still walkers out there, and while they may seem safe, they're not completely safe, and I thought that was a very good way to end this episode. So overall, guys, another really solid episode, I have to say. Definitely not as good as last week, but I still really enjoyed it. Only really a few things to say here. Definitely with Daryl. I definitely feel like Daryl is in a bad place right now. He needs to get out of this stew. I don't know if I really feel like Daryl's just heading in a dark direction. I do. I don't know what it is. I just feel like he's heading in a very dark direction, and we'll have to see what happens there. Now, as far as Pete goes, I don't trust Pete. I think Pete is the one that is going to end up being a terrible person. I think Pete is, he kind of seems abusive towards Jessie, as I said. He just seems abusive to me. I don't trust him, and I don't think he's good for Jessie. Is Jessie going to end up with Rick? I really do see these two having a future together. Definitely, I see them being together. Carol and Sam, kind of interesting what's going on there. Is Sam going to listen to Carol? Is he going to tell, Olivia about this? Because I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there, because that could be interesting. Is Deanna kind of, is Deanna kind of in a fantasy world? Do you agree with Sasha that the community isn't real? I mean, to me, Sasha just feels out of place, and they're kind of just, I think what Aaron said really does sum up what the community really is. It's a place, I mean, what Jessie says, really a place for everyone to just grieve over the emotions that's going on to them, and I have to agree with her on that. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys saw of this episode. Overall, guys, I'm really loving this half of the season, I have to say. Ever since I love them being this Alexandria Safe Zone, I think it's really working very well for them. And I'll see you guys in the next video, which is actually not going to be for my review of Shameless, because what I want to do my next video is going to be for my review of the season of Togetherness. So what I did for Once Upon a Time and Jane the Virgin, Togetherness ended tonight, so I'm going to watch the season finale, and then I will review the season as a whole. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.